Hi Akshay, my name is Aditya. I'm the founder and CEO of Doqfy. Doqfy is a contract management platform. We have been in the market for more than 6 years.
Aditya, welcome to the Founder Thesis podcast. The reason why I really wanted to speak to you is, as a like a founder of a very small sized business, one struggles with things about laws, contracts, what's the right way to execute an agreement with a client, what is legally valid, what is not legally valid, and you run Doqfy, which is essentially a legal tech startup. So I'd love to create a kind of a guidebook for founders on which would help them navigate the legal challenges around contracts. Let's begin with give me an overview of what exactly is Doqfy. What are you? What is the platform and the product?
Sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Akshay. I'm Aditya Pandranki. I'm the CEO and founder of Doqfy. Doqfy is a contract management platform. We started in 2019, predominantly to manage the contract execution to begin with. As a founder, I started in 2019. However, I've been in the IT industry for more than 18 years. Before starting Doqfy, I was also a part of banking system for more than 5 to 6 years. Initially, that was when I started my career. I worked with banks and NBFCs, and so we have identified a problem statement in the banking system, and so the idea of Doqfy came in when my father had a requirement for one of the home loan documentation in way back in 2013, 14. Uh, so I left my banking and I was working in IT. So he had a document requirement that he has to fulfill for the contract of home loan agreement, and actually I have to travel from Bangalore to my hometown, Visakhapatnam, to get this documentation completed. That has actually triggered me. Like I was doing the same thing for my customers way back in 2001 when I was working with my with Sundaram Home Finance as a home loan manager. So the same thing I have to do it after a decade. So that has actually given me a trigger that okay, things have not changed much, right? So that, and we want to digitize the journey of the contract execution in the banking system to begin with. That's how the journey of Doqfy started in 2019, and we have been in the market for more than 6 years now. And most of the banks and NBFCs use our platform for their different sorts of loan documentation, vendor contracts, service contracts, employment agreements. So that's how the journey started, and Doqfy manages the end-to-end life cycle of contracts. Though we have started for the contract execution, we have pivoted from contract execution to contract life cycle management. Uh, so when we started in 2019, it was like a push product, right? So people were not so much welcoming in terms of digital contract movement, right? So it's like, and then suddenly COVID hit. So there was no movement of documents here and then. So we have an IT Act 2000, but it clearly says that you can execute contracts, agreements in a digital format. But as India, like the adoption, like unlike the Western countries, the adoption of digital contracts is slower when comparing to the Western world. So when COVID hit, it became like a pull product. So all the customers started reaching out to Document, and and they have integrated our system into their system so that they can actually digitally execute contracts, agreements, deeds, vendor contracts. Like,
So let's start with understanding when is the contract needed.
so the contract is needed whenever more than two parties would want to get into an engagement of fulfilling a certain obligation. So the basic needs of a contract is an offer, acceptance, and the lawful consideration. So when these three things are covered, and if both the parties agree to oblige uh, to the requirements, then they can get into a contract and then execute the contract.
Is there a difference? So, for example, if I am an agency owner and I'm providing some sort of a service to a client, let's say some marketing service to a client, uh, is there a difference between me sending a proposal on email and him accepting it on email versus us having a contract? What is which what is the correct way to do this?
So, in order to get a legal binding of the contract, so even the email acceptance also considered as acceptance. But if there is a future obligation or a litigation to take this to the arbitration or any court or kind of thing, right? So it has to be executed on a document where both the parties have agreed for the terms and then they sign the document. And especially in India, right, if you have to execute a contract, that has to be appended with a stamp duty, which is a state subject again, right? So stamp duty is something like which brings the legal binding of the contract. Sometimes few contracts are done without the stamp duty, and then there are scenarios where the court would ask you to go back to the stamp counter and then pay the stamp duty to accept the document in the court. So in those scenarios, like usually, if the stamp duty was supposed to, when you were supposed to execute a contract of 100 rupees stamp duty, you people would end up paying 10 times to 15 times, of the actual stamp duty. So it's going to be the impounding will be applicable. So they have to pay extra fee of the stamp duty and then submit the documents to the court.
So you said that email acceptance is legally binding. Why do I need a contract then, which is
No,
signed and stamp
it may
duty
not
paid?
be legally binding. Email acceptance legally binding. Like it's only for the internal understanding, right? If you have to submit this in the court of law, it can act as an evidence, but it cannot stand as a contract because it's not defined as a kind of contract, right? It's only an email communication. But as email communication can stand as an evidence, so email contract cannot
Okay.
act as a contract.
So
So it has
you
to
can
be,
use email to show intention, but
yeah,
if you really want to be on strong footing, then you should have a signed contract.
yeah,
Should
absolutely, absolutely.
you do a contract with a stamp duty for every client when you're signing up a client and offering them some service? Should you go for a stamp duty also? What is the way to decide that do I need to do stamp duty contract or just a contract?
So usually, right, see within the organization, if you want to execute some documents within an organization, any contracts, any documentation, you can do that. But when you are executing contracts beyond a certain contract, you are doing a business or a services agreement. So you would need an agreement, that contract to be executed on a stamp duty and then execute with the digital signatures. Like earlier, it was wedding signatures. Now we have digital signatures. IT Act 2000 allows digital signatures of different formats, starting from Aadhaar signature when Aadhaar has been introduced. Before that, it was DSC token signatures, which comes in a format of encrypted format in a DSC token, and electronic signature, which can be uh, an image upload of the signature or a stylus based signature. So these signatures are legally accepted, and then you can execute these contracts. But electronic signatures may not be applicable for all sorts of contracts and agreements. So for example, electronic signatures are not valid for conveyance of property. So you have to have vetting signatures for that. So your party should be present. The signature should be present in the presence of the sub-registrar office when you are doing the conveyance of property. Similarly, if you are giving a power of attorney, the electronic signature will not be accepted. And one more thing is a will. If somebody is writing a will, electronic signature is not valid. So the three, four scenarios where you cannot execute in an electronic format, but you can execute any other agreement or contract or a deed. And then there is one more, like a trust deed. You cannot do a trust deed with electronic signatures. So four scenarios that you cannot do it with electronic signatures. But the rest of the documents you can do it in a digital format definitely. And then stamping is another challenge. Like we do not have a uniform stamping mechanism, right? So each this is a state subject, and this falls under the revenue department of each state, and we do not have a uniform stamping mechanism like GST or income tax. Since this is a state subject, each state follows their different ways of stamping methods. thanks to stockholding corporation. So stockholding corporation is one technology entity which is actually bringing in all the states to give a uniform mechanism of at least issuance of the stamp papers, but it will not cover the uniformity. But in terms of the technology, it's uniforming the entire journey of e-stamp issuance. So we have stamps issued by stockholding corporation, which we call it as e-stamps. So there are certain states which still follow the traditional stamping methods like Maharashtra, Telangana, you have Goa, you have West Bengal. They still follow the traditional stamping method. I'm sure that this is going to be changing very soon into electronic format. And we have e-grass portals like for the states of Haryana, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh. They have their own way of stamping, which is called e-grass. So they issue these stamps through the e-grass portal. However, it is an electronic stamp, right? So, so when the government is also moving into the direction to actually give a feasibility to the citizens to execute contracts in a digital format. Unlike the Western world, you can sign the document with Adobe signature or a DocuSign, and but that does not work in India. So it has to be executed in the local law acceptance, right? So, and we have seen a regular practice, the common practice of banks following all their contracts in the with with Aadhaar based signatures, right? So it has become a practice of capturing the contracts in Aadhaar based signature basis. Yeah.
So again, coming back to the decision of, do I need a contract with stamp duty, or is just a
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
like a
it's
contract
good to
which is
have
signed by
it.
both parties enough?
So
How
as
do
I
you
said
decide?
that, yeah, as I said that if you have to bring the legal binding of a contract, you must execute the contract with stamp duty appended to the agreement or the contract. Otherwise, it will not bring you a legal binding. It becomes a regular document, right? So
Okay.
it's good to have the document, but something goes wrong between the parties, right? They want to go for arbitration or some litigation. So then they have to, again, as I said, like they have to do the stamp duty impounding and then submit this document to the court of law.
Okay. 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 Got it. Got it. Okay. And there is a risk at that stage that if you want a stamp duty on the document, and then the counterparty needs to sign again, and they may refuse to sign, those kind of
No,
things.
there's no signature is already done, right? So if you
Okay.
would have done an agreement with on a plain paper,
Hmm.
which was already signed,
Okay.
on that you can do the impounding of the stamp duty. So
Hmm.
that shouldn't be a problem. The
Okay.
signature will
Got it.
not
Got
be
it. Got it. Okay.
asked at that point of time.
Okay. Okay. Understood. So, stamp duty is essentially for a worst case scenario. In case things go into the legal domain, then you would need stamp duty.
No, no, no. But you need to have the stamp duty on any contract or an agreement that you want to execute. It's
Okay.
as per the law, right? So it's again it's one of the tax forms of revenue generation for the government also, right? So so there are certain scenarios people want to avoid stamp duty. So there are scenarios where uh, on a what do you say on the property registration, somebody they want to do a less stamp duty payment, so they'll actually reduce the value of the property. Though the value of the property is a higher side, they would want to reduce the stamp duty payment, so they would put the cost of the property in a less value, right? So just avoid stamp duty, which is not a good practice. I would suggest that it's
I'll
okay.
tell
It's
you where I'm coming from.
yeah.
Um, I've operated businesses in two sectors. One is like an agency business where you're providing some sort of a
Yeah.
marketing agency service. Second is I used to run a hiring business. Both of these are like B2B services, and
Correct,
typically
correct.
B2B services contracts don't have stamp duty. Like, and this is across the industry. Like,
Yeah,
typically when
yeah,
you
yeah.
sign a hiring services agreement with a client, I had maybe two or three clients out of 50 clients who insisted on a stamp duty and these were typically like a publicly listed company which would have
Right.
insisted on that.
Right.
But
Right.
other
Right.
than that, this is not an industry practice to have a stamp duty on the contract. um, and I think something similar happens even in, like, say, marketing agencies. There is a, like, a scope of work document which could be signed, but
Right.
I don't think stamp duties are par for the course. So that is what I'm trying to understand. That
You have the answers in your question itself, right? So,
hmm,
how many of these contracts that you have signed have gone to an arbitration or a litigation,
none, zero.
right?
Uh,
And
which is
why do you think
unfortunately, because as a small entrepreneur,
no one
you
want
have,
to get into that
yeah,
trouble, right? So,
you
if
don't, yeah,
something is not, not
the
working, they'll
the
actually
cost
drop
of
off
trying
then.
to recover whatever
Absolutely.
is going to be lesser than the cost
Yeah.
of paying lawyer fees.
Yeah, that's your answer, right? And when you start as a business, when you start putting the stamp duty, the counterpart will think that, oh, okay, this is a stamp duty is coming along with the agreement. Then it means like, okay, there's one caveat which is coming on top of it. So nobody wants to get into kind of anticipated legal obligations, right? So which may arise, like so it has become
Okay,
a
so you're
practice.
saying it will also hinder your sales
Yeah,
process.
your
It will,
closure, your closure cycle, right? So it
your
becomes like
closure
when
cycle.
you the moment the moment you append the stamp duty, if the counterpart is a small business, okay, they'll sign. But if it is a like the other things that you said, like you three of your customers have like insisted you to put the stamp duty. Those are listed companies, so for them it's the compliance, right? As a listed company, any document that you're executing, everything that, right? So it becomes the corporate governance of an organization, and they want to follow the structure. So that's why they have insisted you to put the stamp duty of the agreement, even it is a small agreement, right? It may not be a major agreement, right? It may be a 2 page or 3 page agreement for services, that is the hiring services. That's why they have insisted you to put the stamp duty as a part of the corporate governance. Unlike the other businesses that you work with, they may not be following the corporate governance in the structured way, where they are answerable to to the investors, like the retail investors, or the corporate governance. So that has become a practice. So technically, you have to append the stamp duty on any contract or an agreement that you want to execute, and that is also a revenue loss to the government. So people like you and me, right, who is trying to do this without the stamp duties, is like revenue loss to the government also, right? So that's as simple as that.
Okay, understood, understood. Okay, so what is the use case, like, the larger use case for your service, which is like contracts with stamp duty? Essentially, from what I understand, you are automating the what you saw your father's case, where he
Yeah.
had to sign a contract for which you had to travel,
Yes,
maybe
actually. Yeah.
to the location of the bank branch, and
Yeah,
sign
that's
in
correct.
person. You needed to take a day's holiday or something like that. uh,
Yeah.
that is the problem you're trying to solve. So what is like a larger high volume use case that you are catering to, where there is a high volume of contracts which have to be signed and with stamp duty paid?
Sure. The highest use case for is the banking sector, right? Followed by the real estate and the rest of the industries. So the banking, because it's a regulated entities, like they have set formats, right? Earlier, banks used to print the loan agreements or application forms with the bunch of documents, like you will get a docket of documents to execute these things, right? So for us, the highest use case is the banking and NBFC sector, where they used for we start with retail assets, that is a loans, right? So they starting from your personal loans, gold loans, commercial loans, vehicle loans, all sorts of loans. They have this. Once the loan is approved, there is a set of documents that after the disbursal is done, right, before the disbursal, there's a set of documentations that has to be completed by the borrowers. Typically, this used to go as a bunch of physical documents to the customers via the sales team members, which I used to do it for my customers also at that point of time, right? So we have eliminated all those journeys in terms of printing the documentation, taking this document to the sub-register office, or paying the stamp duty at the sub-register office, or doing the franking at the sub-register office, and then take this same document to the customer and then do the execution part. So that entire
What is
journey is
franking?
eliminated now. Franking is a method of stamping again. Like as I said, like you have
Okay.
e-stamps, traditional stamps. Franking is also another method of stamp duty. Franking usually happens like for the printed documents, which you already have, right? The set of documents that you take. Uh, so wherever there is no e-stamp paper, there is a combination of traditional stamp papers and franking. So, for example, these predefined traditional stamp papers comes in standard templates, like standard denominations, like hundreds and 500s. For example, West Bengal, you take it. If you have to pay a stamp duty beyond 500 rupees, so you will buy it in multiple 500 rupees. For example, 5,000 rupees, you will buy 500, 10 papers of 500. What if we have to pay a stamp duty of 50,000 rupees? So in that case, so there is a franking service at these SRO offices, service offices, where the customers have to go there and then do the stamping, pay the challan in the bank, take the challan to the sub-register office, submit the challan, and they will do the franking. So that's the franking mechanism.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. So the coming back to my use case, it's predominantly the banking, which covers the entire loans, and then we started with additional the product lines like locker agreements, escrow accounts. You have the POS agreements, which the banks do that, and then
POS is the
there's
credit card machine given to a
yeah, the
merchant.
POS machines, yeah, point of
Hmm.
sale machines. So when they give a point of sale machine, there is an agreement that has to be executed between the merchant and the bank. So every service that bank provides, there is some sort of agreement or contract between the borrower or the service provider and the bank, and that has to be appended with the stamp duty as per the regulator. So the major use cases for us is the banking, followed by the real estate. Except the conveyance of property, you have sale agreements, you have deeds that has to be executed. That's one more use case that we do it. However,
What do
we
you
are
mean by
sector agnostic.
conveyance of property? Like you're saying, transferring the
Conveyance of
ownership?
property is that you whenever there is a registration of property, right?
Okay.
So, I mean the sale agreement between the
Hmm.
builder and the sale deed between the
Hmm.
builder and the customer, where both of them have to be available at the sub-register office to get the registration done. That is the conveyance of property. So once there is a registration between the parties, then they have to be present in front of the sub-register officer. He will sign the document and he will approve. Like the customers will sign the document and then the sub-register approves that. Again, that is they will validate with the Aadhaar cards again. That signature is also sometimes they take the biometrics and then capture the photo also during the signature process just to be on a safe side. Right? So, yeah.
Okay. Got it.
And however, we are sector agnostic. We have multiple use cases. There, like we have customers who use it for franchisee renewal agreements. We have cloud kitchen agreements, which they use it for. There's there's endorsement agreements that they execute on our platform, services agreement, master services agreements, vendor contracts across different industries, starting from banking, real estate, logistics, hospitality, healthcare, all industries, right? Manufacturing. So that's how we have been expanding our services.
Okay. How do you replace this uh, process through technology? Like, are you able to procure stamps through API calls, and is that how you do it, or like how are you automating this?
So we cannot replace the government systems. We can only leverage the government system. So we are automating certain processes for procuring stamp papers. We have to get approvals from stockholding corporation or NESL, who actually provides these APIs to help us to provide these services to our customers. So we leverage these platforms and then provide this service. So that's how it works. We cannot replace the government services, right? So we can only leverage the government support and then do these services for a better, quick service to the customers and then ease of use. So they don't need to travel anywhere. you can execute the contracts or agreements sitting at that place and then be done with it.
Is this a service that anybody can get into? Like, if all you need is APIs from any SL, then anybody could start offering this service of automating contracts.
Yeah, anybody can do that, but again, it's the domain knowledge and the team that you have been working upon, right? So that's the best part. So anybody and everybody, like there are certain approvals that you need to work in, and then you have the domain expertise that you have been working for so while, and you are able to do this and identifying the problem statement. And there's certain scenarios like customers. This is not more of a B2C kind of scenario, right? This is more of B2B, B2B requirements, a lot of B2B requirements. B2C requirements are like one-off kind of scenarios. Like those. They may not have, for example, if somebody wants a rental agreement, they would want it only once in 11 months kind of requirement. However, if a company has to execute contracts, they'll have day in day out they'll be executing a lot of contracts and agreements between different parties. So that's how they have to do it.
No, but what's your moat? Why are you not easily replaceable?
I'm
If
not saying that I'm
anybody
not
can get,
easily
not
replaceable.
anybody, but
Today's world, in today's world, it's everything is replaceable, and that's pretty much replaceable. But a continuous innovation in the product
give me
and the
examples.
passion.
What kind of innovation?
Continuous innovation is in terms of the AI features that we are integrating now into the system, right? So one is the continuous innovation, another one is the domain expertise that you have, and the third one is the team that you have, which has started this service, and then we are able to do this to the one of, like most of the prominent names in the industry that we are working with. So yeah, so that's the
Okay,
way
you
we are
said
moving
that
forward.
there are. So, from what I understand, to automate this service, the parts in it are, uh, one is the stamp duty part, which you told me through NESL, you
Mm,
can get
mm,
APIs and you can automate that. Second is the
right.
actual signature, and for that you told me there are multiple ways to do signature, including electronic
Yeah,
sign, Aadhaar
yeah,
sign,
yeah,
etc.
yeah.
So, which of these do you offer? What is the way in which contracts are signed on your platform?
All the ways, right? So we provide options to the customers. It's depend upon the business requirement. As I said, like the banking industry, they would prefer capturing the signatures via Aadhaar based signatures. Somebody would want to like if
Why is there a preference of one over another? Is there a
like,
difference in the legal validity,
this is
or
this is as per the RBI. RBI has mandated to capture the
okay,
signatures via Aadhaar
okay,
for the banking industry, right?
hmm,
And it becomes the ultimate truth for because the Aadhaar is the one thing that is getting linked to all multiple identities of individuals and businesses. So that was mandated by the RBI to get the signatures through Aadhaars. Uh, there are certain scenarios like if you have to sign on behalf of on behalf of your company, there's a class 3 DAC token. So it will be on the name of the organization, not on the name of the individual. But you are a
okay,
representative of the organization. So you will sign on
hmm,
behalf of your organization with a DAC token. Right. So the bank, if the bank is giving a loan, a business loan, so they would capture two types of signature. One is on behalf of the organization, other one is on behalf of the director. Right. So director will be signing the document with Aadhaar, and the organization will sign the document with the DSC token signature. That's the class 3 DSC token.
okay. And
So we provide all the options available in the system:
hmm,
Aadhaar, DSC, electronic, biometric, PAN-based signatures, all these things along with the different type of stamping, and customers can choose according to their business requirements. So the business use case, they can pick and choose these business requirements and then to customize those scenarios for them and then make this available for their usage.
uh, can you zoom in on each of these? How they happen? How do you offer Aadhaar based sign? Do you have some access to a government portal through which you are able to trigger that? Or like, how does it happen? Like,
So the signatures are provided by a central certifying authority. This is the government body which gives the licenses to the certifying authorities. Certifying authorities are somebody like eMutra, Capricorn, Geo kind of companies where they would become a certifying authority. and we become ASP or a TSP of this service of certifying authorities, and then we offer this in our platform. So we become a part of the certifying authorities, that is eMudra. So we predominantly use eMudra, Protein, or Capricorn to provide the e-signature services, and then we integrate the systems with their systems, like, and then we provide the signatures, Aadhaar, DSC token
Help me
signature.
understand this certifying authority a little better. Is this a is this a government body or is this it's a private body?
CCA is Central Certifying Authority, is a government body.
Okay. And
Central
eMudra?
Certifying Authority is a government body, and they have defined a certain framework to get the license of CA. That is certifying authorities like companies
Hmm.
like eMudra or Capricorn kind of
These are
companies, or
private companies,
Geo.
eMudra,
These are
Capricorn.
private companies. These are
Okay.
private companies, and these private companies would offer the technology service provider licenses to companies like Doqfy or any other company, where we become a technology service provider for them, and we integrate with their
But
system.
why does an eMudra exist? Why are you not directly working with this central certifying authority? What is the
So
role of
we
eMudra here?
so we will also there is a certain plan that we have to become, there is certain vintage that a company has to have it. So they have certain framework which is defined by the CCA, right? So once we fall under that category, any company can become a CA, right? There's a certain deposit that has to be maintained with the CCA, and certain
But what is the value add of a CA? What is it providing? A CA, a
so
certifying authority, has access to the Aadhaar database, and it can
no, no.
then
CCA will not also have any authority to have the. They will not have any access to the Aadhaar. Again, there is an integration between UIDA and CA.
okay,
So when they leverage, they also leverage through the UIDA. But UIDA cannot give the access to companies like me to do the Aadhaar signature integration. So
okay,
they will give access to only to the CS certifying authorities only,
okay.
like companies like Protein, eMudra, Capricorn kind of companies. So the
Hmm.
UIDA will give access to these companies which are provided by, which are approved by the CCA,
Okay,
to give access to this lab. So none of these companies will not access any sort of data of UIDA, nothing. It's only that there is an API call that goes that, okay, this is the Aadhaar number, the customer is entering the Aadhaar number, and UIDA validates the Aadhaar number and sends a response that this is a valid Aadhaar number. So
okay.
based on that, it captures the signature that its Aadhaar number is validated, and it captures the rest of the details of the IP address, email address, and all those things, which becomes a part of the signature.
It's not just valid Aadhaar. You also get an OTP or something, right? When you want to
Yeah,
sign
yeah,
through
yeah,
Aadhaar.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So once
So
that is triggered
the
by the UIDA.
okay, okay,
So whenever somebody uses an Aadhaar based signature, they'll enter the Aadhaar number, and Aadhaar will actually send an OTP. That
hmm.
OTP has to be entered on eMudras or Protein's signature link. Then it gets validated, and the signature is captured at that point of time.
Okay, got it. Okay, understood. So like a e-mudra or a Protean are uh, in a way you could say like a Mastercard or a Visa, and then there are payment gateways which are using Mastercard and Visa. So
Perfect
you are
example.
like a payment gateway in a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
simplistic uh,
Correct, 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 correct.
understanding of it. Okay, okay, got it, got it. Okay, okay. So that
Issuers,
is how. Hmm,
aggregators, and payment gateways. Yeah, this
hmm.
is this is a similar workflow.
Okay, okay, okay. Understood. So that's how Aadhaar signature works. How does electronic signature work?
Electronic signature is you don't have dependency on the CA. The CA will define a certain framework again, so it has to be in a definite size, and within that size, you have to capture the IP address, email address, and all those things. So again, you can create your own other electronic signature, and this is in-house built product for us, right? It's electronic signature, but there is a specific framework which is defined by the CA, and then we create that. So electronic signature can be in the form of stylus based signature. You can do a stylus based signature on the mobile or tab, or which is a touch based, right? So, and then other way of doing is you can actually upload an image of your signature, that is also becomes as an electronic signature. So, and then you can There's
But how
few
do you
service
make sure
providers
that
also.
it's not somebody else who's signing? You need a way to validate that this is the actual the
So,
signature belongs to the
so that
person
is
whom
the
it's.
framework which is defined by C, right? So it clearly says that capture the email address, phone number, and the MAC address, those things, latitude, longitude of the
So
person
you
who
do
is
that
signing
through
the
an
document.
OTP, like you'll trigger an OTP to validate
OTP is
the.
also there. So it depends upon certain customers would want that to be an OTP to send. Certain customer says that we don't need an OTP, you can capture the signature. So we have created one more layer of doing this is like liveliness check of the signatory who is actually signing the document. We take a small snippet of the video while doing the signature or a photo capture of the signature. So as Doqfy we provide this. So those is not defined by anybody, but as Dockify, we provide one more layer of security aspect just for the evidence purposes, where we capture the liveliness of the signatory or a photo capture of the signatory while doing the signature.
And this e-sign is typically in the presence of a bank employee or something. I assume a bank employee would give a tablet to a customer and the customer would sign.
No,
Is
no,
that,
no,
or
no,
this is
not.
also
It's not
remote? Like,
mandatory. It's not mandatory.
okay,
So, an
okay,
email link will be sent via WhatsApp, regular WhatsApp message and regular message SMS, and to the email.
hmm,
So the customer will open up a link and then they'll actually sign the document by entering the details over there. So there's no requirement of the bank representative to be present at the point of signing the document.
got it. Okay, this is what say a DocuSign offers, electronic
Yeah, yeah,
signature.
yeah. Electronic signatures. Yes.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay, got it. And I guess for this service agreements, most businesses use electronic signature only.
Correct, correct,
Mm.
correct. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Got it, got it. Okay, okay, understood. Okay. And how does DSC work?
DSCs are issued by the certifying authorities like Emudra and
What is the full
others
form
like
of
SCAP.
DSC? Digital
Digital signature
signature
certificate.
certificate. Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So this is an encrypted signature. So before getting your DSC signature, you have to apply to Emudra or Capricorn kind of companies. Like there's an application process to procure the that digital signature token. So they would validate your KYC has to be done. So there is a process. So immediately you will not get DSC token immediately. So there's a process where there's an application
When you say
process. They'll
DSC
do.
token, what is that? Is that a piece of code? Is that a hardware,
It's like
software?
a pen drive.
Okay.
It's like a pen drive.
Hmm.
So you have to insert that in the drive, and
Hmm.
then it captures signature via the Adobe Reader, right?
Adobe. Okay.
So
Got it.
yeah,
Okay. Hmm. Hmm.
so this there is an application process. So you will have to apply to eMudra or Capricorn. They will send you a link to your email address and phone number for KYC. So
Hmm.
so the applicant has to fulfill the application process. The KYC has to be done, and then they'll also
And you need
capture
a
the.
PAN or a Aadhaar for
Ha, so
KYC.
they'll hold the PAN number.
Hmm.
There is a certain code which will be sent by Emudra or Protein or Capricorn that they need to read that specific lines which were
Hmm.
sent by the CA while holding the PAN number. As good as I'm talking to you, right? So I'll hold it and I'll tell that this is my name. I'll tell my name and this is the code that I have received. Then it gets approved. So after that, it's an encrypted file, which is in an encrypted format. That encrypted file will be uploaded to the pen drive, and you need to collect it from the agencies. So usually, the CAs will have the agencies for eMudra DSC tokens. So CA forms you can apply through a CA form, or you can apply directly to eMudra or Capricorn, and you would get your DSC token.
And
So
how
there are
how
two.
what is the validity of this token? How long is it?
It's sometimes it's 2 years, or
Okay.
sometimes it's 1 year. Like I think
Okay.
it's almost
Okay.
like 2 years validity.
And I think for corporate of things
That's
like
a
say.
class three. That's a class three corporate, and class two is for individuals.
Okay. Okay. I believe DSC is what you need for, like, say, MCA, Ministry of Corporate
Exactly.
Affairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
filing,
Yes.
you
Absolutely.
need that. So,
Yes. Yes.
like,
Yes.
okay. Okay. Uh,
All the MCA filings happens to the DSC.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. MCA filings would be about. I think your annual P&L statement, balance sheet, and all of those are filed with the
Yeah,
MCA
yeah,
depending
yeah,
on the
yeah,
type of
yeah.
entity. So to
Correct,
file
correct.
those, you need the
Yeah,
DSC.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Even
okay,
if you
okay.
go for tenders, government tenders, or if you have to do the income tax filing returns for the organization,
Hmm.
uh, so all those things usually happens via DSC.
Okay, okay. And a person can have more than one DSC. Like,
It's only one DSC. A person
okay.
should hold only one DSC.
No, I'm asking because often your DSC is with your CAs, not with you mostly, right? Because the CA is doing the filing. So just from that
Which I don't
perspective.
wanted to comment now. So usually, usually, that's a matter. That's a fact, right? Most of our DSCs are with the either with your CS or with the CA.
Yeah.
Ideally, that's not the scenario. Right? Your CA or the CS has to send the document to you, and you sign the document and send it back to you.
Hmm,
You
hmm,
are the
hmm.
custodian of your DSC token, not your
Right,
CA.
right. Right.
That's not a good practice.
Okay, understood. Understood. Okay, okay. Understood. Okay. Uh, and how does your platform do the DSC sign? Again, is it through an eMudra? Like eMudra
Yeah,
provides
eMudra
the.
and Capricorn, we have it. So in the DSC token signature, there is a small local client that has to be downloaded while the signature link is sent. So a small application that has to be downloaded on the signatory's device, and
Okay,
it identifies the moment it identifies the DSC token. It identifies and then it will capture the signature through the DSC token. So
okay,
once the DSC token is inserted, they'll have to enter the password. Each DSC token comes with a passcode, so they'll
hmm,
have to enter the passcode to capture the signature.
okay. So this downloading a local software. So is this software available across Windows, Mac, Linux, Chrome? Because there's so many operating
I
systems,
think it's
Android.
only available for to Mac and iOS and Windows. These two, not
Okay.
Linux, not Linux
So,
everywhere.
or
Yeah,
if you're using a Chromebook, then you can't execute DSC
I
signatures.
doubt if you can do that. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
okay.
primarily available on Windows and Mac, iOS. So I think yeah,
S-
those are the
w-
two.
w- So this sounds like a little bit of an outdated technology, right? Like to be relying on something getting downloaded instead of all happening on cloud.
Yeah, yeah, it's because if you have to identify that it's not on the cloud, right? So it's on the local device. So that's how it is set now. I'm sure that it's going to fade away in some time, right? So most of the things will happen via Aadhaar, definitely, right?
Okay, you
Sometime
see,
soon,
Aadhaar is
right? So
the way forward.
yeah, I think it's going to be
Even companies have Aadhaar, right? There is that uh,
MSME Udyog.
MSME Udyog number, yeah, which is
Yeah, yeah,
something
numbers.
like
Yeah,
an Aadhaar
yeah. It's
number,
like an Aadhaar
supposedly.
of companies. Yeah, correct, correct.
Yes. But I guess that MSME Udyog is not that prevalent. Not every company. I mean, right now the
That's
government is not pushing for every company to have that number, right? Like, I think
yeah,
that is a
yeah.
problem there. Okay, understood. Okay, so how much do you earn for every contract you execute?
That's a good
Like a
one.
blended average.
Blended average, like for it depends upon the type of the signatures and the stamping. So typically, our revenue model is based on the per transaction model. Right? So it it would vary anywhere between 49 rupees for a stamp duty, and then for signature we charge 10 rupees, 15 rupees per signature. That's a kind of, so
Okay.
it's a transaction based thing.
Hmm. So like double digit basically, like anywhere
Yeah,
from 30, 40 rupees to 80, 90, something like in
yeah,
that
yeah,
range, broadly
yeah,
speaking.
yeah.
Okay. And what is the total addressable market for this? Like how much could your revenue go up to?
You see, there's a lot of market is there. I think we have not even covered 1% of the market yet, right? So there's huge scope in terms of the contract execution and contract lifecycle management. The addressable market, if you ask me, like it's around like contract lifecycle management and contract execution and signature would combine around like 50 billion market across the globe.
Okay.
Like, if you consider that, right? So that's
Hmm.
where companies like DocuSign and Adobe have been there in the market for more than 22 years,
Hmm.
and they have been inspirational in terms of actually a digital transformation of the contract execution.
Okay. Though the difference between a DocuSign and a Doqfy is, I think DocuSign is more SME focused, right? Whereas you're more enterprise focused.
No, no, DocuSign is also enterprise focused. DocuSign
Okay.
is enterprise focused. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely
Okay.
DocuSign is enterprise focused. But yeah, mostly on the other side of the world. Right? So uh, only after COVID, DocuSign also got like a kind of acceptance in terms of Indian market. Also, people started executing signatures through DocuSign. So earlier it was only few players. Now a lot of people know DocuSign in India also, right? So
Hmm.
DocuSign is mostly used by enterprises in the other
Okay.
world. Like now, even in India
Okay.
also they use enterprise focused.
Okay. 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 Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay. Uh, so, uh, I mean, like you are specifically looking at high volume users, right? You're not looking at like an SME user, like say an agency which might sign 2 to 5 contracts in a month with clients. That wouldn't be your market.
No, we don't say no to any of our customers. So we,
No,
but the
that is a
focus
different
is,
matter. Obviously,
yeah,
nobody will
the
say
focus
no,
is
but
the volume. But
huh,
yesterday only I've seen one customer actually coming in for some requirement, right? So he walked into our office and asked for like, can I do
okay.
this? He wanted an agreement to be executed. I said like, yeah, please come. Take it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, we are not more focused on the B2C. It's mostly on the B2B and
Hmm.
high volume. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So, who are the other players in this enterprise market, the high volume market?
Yeah, we have Desk to start with, and we have
These are
Legality.
Indian or
Yeah, yeah, Indian companies, Indian
okay?
companies.
Hmm.
So on the signature side and contract execution, what we they also do what we do,
Hmm.
and they have been in the market even before us.
Hmm.
So they are the players who does the contract execution
Hmm.
in the Indian context.
Okay. And have they raised funds? And have you raised funds? How much funding has the space seen? Like, are VCs interested in this space?
Definitely yes. Yeah, there is like uh, so we are a contract management platform, whereas legality is an infrastructure company, like document infra company, right? They have also raised funds. Uh, I believe Signdesk is bootstrapped. Uh, they've been in the market since 2015, and
Hmm.
there are companies like SpotDraft in the contract lifecycle management. They have recently raised around 54 million
Though
USD.
Spot Draft is more of a US story, right? I don't think India is their focus.
They're India also, right? So
Okay.
they were focusing on the US market to begin with, but
Hmm.
eventually, like they also start focusing on the Indian market. So they have
Okay.
good enough customers in the Indian market also.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah.
Okay. 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 Got it. Have you raised funds?
Yeah, we have raised two rounds of investments till now. Like, earlier was friends and family when we started in 2019. It was around like 25 lakhs that we raised,
Hmm.
and after that we raised 2 crores from Turbo Start, our first investor, institutional investor,
Hmm.
and in 2022 we raised a 1 million round from
Hmm.
Pentathlon Ventures, Silver Needle, Let's Venture, Lead
Hmm.
Angels have
Hmm.
participated in this round.
Hmm. Okay. Got it. So, what is your right to win in this market? It is not a. I mean, it's not a technology moat as such because there are equally talented engineers in India who can build, and getting an API is something which is possible for other companies to also get. So, what's your right to win?
A right to win is like, see, it's now everything is moving into the AI, right? So there's a lot of things that you can do with AI that we have already started doing it.
So,
For
AI
example,
is
like
not in the contract execution domain, right? Because most of that is fairly automating operations.
Yeah,
So where are you
that's
using
more of
AI?
automation of operations, right? So
Hmm.
AI is
Hmm.
not there in the contract execution, but AI is definitely there in the contract lifecycle management, right? So, for
And
example,
how much of your
summarization of.
business is execution? How much of your business is contract lifecycle management?
So around like 70% is execution, 30% is contract lifecycle management, and we intend to do it as 50-50 in this next year.
Help me
Where
understand what is this business of contract lifecycle management.
contract lifecycle management is something which, like, it's like contract execution is after you finalize a contract, but whereas contract lifecycle management is from the base of your contract. Like you have to create contracts for a business. They like you can actually create contracts, collaborate within the organization, outside the organization, to do the negotiations. Once the negotiations are complete, you can move this to the execution. Once the contract is executed, there is a certain lifetime of the contract. During the lifetime of the contract, there are certain milestones that you need to manage throughout the contract life cycle. So there is an obligation management that you can do it in the CLM platform, the contract lifecycle management platform. And so there are repetitive renewals of the contracts. Few contracts will be renewable, few contracts gets terminated automatically. So organizations will not have enough time and resources to manage these contracts. So enterprise businesses, they'll definitely have specific legal teams who will be able to manage these contracts with certain tools, whereas mid-sized businesses may not have resources and the legal teams to manage these contracts. That's where we are focusing on. So the CLM platform would be able to manage your end-to-end contracts. So all the contracts that you have executed will also be part of the contracts lifecycle management. So it becomes a full 360 degrees coverage of your contracts, which are available for your disposal at any given point of time. Uh, so
What is the
if
critical information in contract lifecycle management? I mean, obviously, date would be one because you need to track the date. If the contract is expiring, does it need to be renewed? But besides the date, what else is there which needs to be tracked? And
So there are commercials. So there are certain commercials that you do. For example, there is a software services agreement, and so you will decide the payment releases depending upon the modules that the service provider is going to release, right? So you can actually trigger this creative workflow between your finance team and your operations team and the product team, telling that if these milestones have been met or not met. All these players say that, all these stakeholders says that, okay, this is met, this is not met, this is met. So if all the stakeholders says that, yeah, all the obligations are met, then it will trigger for the finance, telling that, okay, you can go ahead and release the payments. So commercials are one obligation becomes one obligation. There are certain dates which gets expiration. The expiration date is also one more obligation that becomes there. So based upon different type of the documents, so you can define different milestones on the contract.
or if let's say there is a minimum order quantity, like a minimum monthly order has to be
Yeah,
given to a
yeah,
particular
yeah.
vendor.
I'm okay.
Uh,
Yes, yes.
but how would you know that the minimum order has been given or not? Will you integrate with the because the company would be using like a SAP Oracle to
Yeah,
do the
yeah, yeah.
procurement.
Correct,
So
correct.
do you integrate
So
with
we
them?
can
And
integrate with their CRM applications or ERP applications or any other third party application that they want to integrate, which captures the policies, which captures the data inputs that has to be linked to the contracts. We can do those integrations, and then a trigger can be initiated from the CLM platform.
okay, got it. Okay, got it. Okay, okay. And what is the use of AI in this?
So in the contract, usually in the CLM, like there is a lot of paralegal things that are managed by the legal professions. Like one is most of the time is spent on the contract drafting, other one is review. These are the two things that consumes a lot of efforts from the legal professionals. So we help them to automate these things with the help of AI. With the help of prompt engineering, legal professionals can actually create contracts and
Hmm,
with a
great.
less turnaround time. So drafting would not need so much of time. And each organization have their own style of doing the drafting. Right? It may not be the same for organizations. So it is customizable. So you can actually define those policies, how do you want to draft the contracts. So with the help of AI, we have created a small language model which would help the legal professionals to create the contracts. Another one is the review of the contract. So the AI system would review the contracts. You can actually define the policies. Based upon the policies, if the contract that you have received from your counterpart is matching to your policies with the internal policies, not matching with your policies. If it is not matching, then it will trigger the anomalies or the highlights that is not matching with the policies, and they can quickly go back to the counterpart and tell that okay, this is not matching as per the policies. So maybe the payment terms is not matching, or the jurisdiction is not matching. The jurisdiction is Bangalore, but you are given Mumbai, so we may not be able to do the contract. So they can actually do. So otherwise, they have to go do line by line review for their contracts, right? So another thing is that we do the summarization of contracts. For example, few contracts go beyond 400, 300 page document, and somebody is sitting and reviewing these contracts and understanding the summary of the contract is a tedious task. So we have integrated a system which can actually summarize the contracts for the legal professions, and then it can help them to save time and resources. So these are the 3 4 features that we have integrated. There's a lot of things that we are that's in the roadmap on the AI side, which can save a lot of time, resources for the companies as well as the legal professionals. So it's like it's more of automation and innovation which is required, right? So they can actually do this with the help of AI and utilize they can actually utilize the resources for more creative work or innovative tasks than doing the regular mundane tasks. So
Hmm.
that's how we eliminate a lot of manual interventions.
Okay. Um, you said you use a small language model. What is a small language model? Why did you not use a large language model?
See, large language model we can integrate, but again, as I specified, right, each business will have their, for example, law firms, right? They have their own way of doing drafting and reviewing and other things. So they'll have their own internal policies that they want to do it, right? And especially the law is not same. If the reason why we have done like for India and the US, that's a federal law, and we have an Indian law which is not same. So integrating a large language model will actually put a lot of load in terms of managing these things. Rather, you can actually modularize the small language models, which can become a part of large language model, and you can deploy it as per the business requirements, as per the geographies.
What is
That's the
a
intention.
small language model? Just help me understand that.
So large language models are or for the big data sets, right? So small
Like
language model is for the
ChatGPT, Gemini,
yeah,
Claude.
yeah,
These are
yeah,
large
yeah,
language
yeah,
models.
yeah.
Hmm.
So we use Mistral. Mistral is also large. So we use Mistral
Yeah.
within. So it's
So
modularization
European.
of the large language model. We'll, so that it becomes a modular aspect, and then it becomes a part of large language model. As we move forward and the data gets more, the GPU utilization becomes more for the large language models, whereas the GPU utilization is less for the small language models. So
And so
it's
a
like
small language model, from what I understand, then is a large language model is trained on a lot of data,
huge data
like
set. Yeah,
a
yeah,
huge,
yeah,
huge,
yeah,
massive data
yeah,
set. So
yeah.
a small
That's a
language
data
model
set.
is essentially trained on a smaller data set. That's the only
Yeah,
difference.
yeah. That's the
And
difference.
this smaller data set would be curated. So you would, for
Yes,
example,
yes,
only train it on Indian law and Indian
correct,
contracts, and you would feed it hundreds of different types of contracts and
that's correct.
templates.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, got it. So this is available off the shelf, the small language model, or you have to build it, or how does a
We have
business
built
use?
this was built in house. So
Okay. And what is the connection with Mistral here? Like,
I mean, we felt it is flexible for us, so we worked with Mistral. So we have integrated Mistral for that.
so Mistral is a large language model, right? It's not a small
Yeah,
language
yeah,
model.
it's a large language model. So we leverage Mistral to deploy a small language model.
How are you doing your client acquisition? Because from what I understand, the I mean, the right to win here. to me seems like client acquisition, because I
Right.
think from a technology perspective, India has enough talent to create competitive technology other companies can also create, but possibly the ability to acquire enterprise clients would be a differentiator.
Right. The best part is for us there's the references. The first thing we use is the references from the existing customers. It's one of the acquisition aspects for us. So our customers refer their friends, other companies which are actually looking for similar services. Another way of doing is this through the we have our sales team, business development team, in-house team, where they do the reach outs through cold emails, through cold calling, and there is we also attend events. We also conduct events, and then we become part of those events and reach out to those customers. We leverage tools like LinkedIn Navigator, and then LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and we reach out through Lucia or Apollo kind of things. And there are inbound activities that we do, that some digital marketing which would help the customers to reach out to us. So there is inbound channels. So we do both inbound as well as outbound reach outs to our customers. And this
Now,
is
who is the person you want to reach out to? It can't be the CEO, right? This wouldn't be.
that there's we have specific ICPs. One is the digital transformation heads in the organizations. Those are the
Okay.
people who would want to bring a digital transformation their own. So
Hmm.
we reach out to
Hmm.
digital transformation heads.
Hmm.
We reach out to the chief legal officers who wants to put a process automation process in place. And in the banking, there is retail asset operations team and team members whom we reach out, and in certain scenarios we reach out to the CFOs or the CEOs. So whoever is like more into operations, who is looking for the operational optimization, those
Hmm.
are the ICPs that we reach out.
Okay. 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 Got it. And what's your ARR now currently?
We are ARR is around like 20 crores, 20
Hmm.
24 crores. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. By when do you think you will hit, like, say, 100 crore ARR? By which year?
I think by 2027,
Hmm.
2028 we'll be able to reach that number.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Aditya. It was a real pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Akshay. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. Have a good one.